Three, two, one.
Talent Experience Live. We're covering everything that you need to know in Talent Experience.
People applying for new positions is like the cherry on top.
With new technology to attract talent.
Recruiters always know their best talent.
The AI just learned to use that information.
Inclusion efforts across the organization.
Tell me what it's like to work through associate story.
Interviews with leaders in the industry. Talk about what's new in HR tech. What are the hot topics? We're here every week, folks. Weekly look at the latest and greatest topics in HR. I love the intro music so much. We have to come up with a Spotify or an Apple Music playlist or something that pulls together that song and a couple of other of our favorite kind of pump up jams and soundtrack. I want to welcome everybody. This is Talent Experience Live. This is, as I like to say, the greatest show on the internet. This is the place to be every single week. If you're a recruiter, a sourcer, a talent marketer, we are super excited to be here. My name is Tom Tates. I'm the host of the show. I'm on the marketing team here at Phenom. And if you're just joining us, we go live every Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. We're live on LinkedIn. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. Follow us on your platform of choice. Be sure to like, subscribe, get notified so you never miss a beat. We love being here. We love when you're here too. Talent Experience Live is proudly brought to you by the team at Phenom. Our purpose at Phenom is simple. It's to help 1 billion people find the right job. All right, maybe it's not so simple, but that's not a typo. It's a true billion. We are well on our way. We can't do it without our amazing community. So thank you so much for being here today. We have a talent experience platform, and this platform helps candidates find the right fit faster. It helps employees evolve in their current role and beyond. It helps recruiters achieve some of that next level productivity and efficiency, and it's going to help your hiring managers build better teams with data. All of this is powered by super slick AI and machine learning. You can head on over to phenom.com if you want to learn more about this amazing platform or get in touch with us. I want to give a quick shout out to our producer, Justin Devitt. He's here with us. He is behind the scenes. He's pulling the strings. He's pressing the buttons. He's making this happen. So thank you, Justin, for showing up every single week, putting out a great show with us. Also want to give a quick shout out to our executive producer for this episode, Patri Chupa. Welcome. Every single week when you join the show, there's so much that happens behind the scenes, right? All this planning that happens to really make sure we put together a good program. And Patri is behind all of that, right? She's connecting with our guests. She's writing amazing headlines. She's helping us really come up with some great topics that we can pursue. The list goes on and on. If you want to propose a specific topic, or if you know a great expert that should be on the show, reach out to me on LinkedIn, Tom Tates. Reach out to Patrizia. We'll drop Patri's contact information in the comments here as well on LinkedIn. So we'd love to connect with you. We'd love to learn how you're enjoying the show, how we can improve it, and any type of topics that you want us to pursue. As always, let's kick off the show. I like to know who you are. I like to know where you're from, what you do. This is a great opportunity to connect, right, and network with our peers. I'm just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It is the first day in a long time where the temperature is above 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is a good thing. The snow is melting. I'm smiling. I hope that wherever you are, you're smiling too. So let us know in the comments. Let us know who you are, where you're tuning in from. Always excited to see that as well. And we'll have a quick icebreaker question in just a bit. Today, we're talking about a new dawn, right? This new era of HR. And so much has changed, right, since 2020. It feels like we're living in a new world, right? Time is moving fast. Things are changing at a rapid clip. I feel like every single week, every single month, things are just changing so quickly, right? And it's really hard in HR to keep up with everything, right? And if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss the bus, right? The bus is well on its way and it's taking off without you, right? HR leaders are now at the epicenter of really this redesign of how we work, where we work, who we work with, ushering in what many are calling this golden age of change and transformation. Our founder here, Phenom Mahi, he connects with CHROs from around the globe from Fortune 100 companies. And he's talked about this a lot. He's shared a lot of his thoughts around kind of this golden age of HR. And I'm super excited to really continue this conversation with an amazing guest today, right? So teams that are clinging to the old practices, they are really failing to kind of enable some of the new strategies that will possibly put them on the wrong side of history, right? If they don't make some serious changes or start to understand how we can get unstuck. How can we embrace the new dawn? What tactics and strategies are at our disposal that can open up our teams to be more successful? And our guest today has such an incredible perspective on all of these questions, right? And he's going to help us navigate some of these questions and navigate this changing landscape. So I'm thrilled to have him join in just a minute. But first, speaking of history, speaking of being on the wrong side of history, we want to be on the right side of history. For our icebreaker question today, Patrick came up with this one. If you could meet a historic figure, who would it be and why? So if you can meet any figure in history, past or present, it could be someone who's alive or deceased. Who would it be and why? And just quick shout out to all the folks who are tuning in. We've got Jennifer tuning in from Ambler, Pennsylvania. We've got Lisa tuning in from Southern California, Julie from Downingtown, Laura from Miami, Florida. I'm sure the weather is nice down in Miami. Sarah from Media, Pennsylvania. Awesome. Charlotte, Anna Maria, Florida. Hopefully things are nice down there as well too. Matthias, Maggie, where it is always sunny. That's right. It is always sunny in Philadelphia. That's true. Maggie, welcome. So we've got a great group of folks here. Welcome. And real quick, post in the chat, who would you meet? What historic figure would you like to meet and why? For me, so I'm going to show, my spiritual side, right? My spiritual side. I'm a little Catholic boy, Catholic born and raised. So I'd be remiss if I didn't say I'd want to meet Jesus in the flesh. I mean, that'd be amazing, right? Jesus Christ, one of the most influential people in the world, whether you're Catholic or not. So I'd probably go with, Christ being, one of the folks who I'd like to sit down with and meet face to face. That'd be pretty cool. You can see guitars in my background. So if it wasn't going to be on the religious side, I'd probably go with the next best thing to Christ, which would be George Harrison, right? My favorite Beatle. So if not Christ, George Harrison would be my second guess. I've got a couple folks here tuning in. Natalie from Canada, preparing for 30 to 60 centimeters of snow. Oh my gosh, Natalie, good luck. Good luck with that. Matthias from Berlin. Awesome. Medina from Mindy from Florida. Welcome, Mindy. Very cool. All right, great. Well, keep the comments coming. Let us know who you would meet and why. I know it's a tough question. I'm going to ask the same question of our guest. And without further ado, let's get started. So Mark Brooks Lewis. He is the founder of Lava Source HR. Lava Source is a global freelance talent marketplace for HR and people, brand, and comms, change management, HR technology professionals. They cover the full gamut for anyone and everyone who wants to be free to work flexibly, sustainably, and compliantly. We're going to dig into what that means and how it's coming to fruition, and who better to share with us than Mark himself. So let's bring Mark onto the show. Mark, welcome. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you, Tom. Nice to meet you. And thank you for inviting me on today. Although you have set the bar pretty high with your choice of historic figure there. I was thinking, well, who should I pick? I can pick some famous people, some people that matter to me personally, but I'm not entirely convinced I can beat the guest that you just picked. So
sure. Yeah, I guess I went a little bold. A little bold there, but I would still love to hear your pick. I'd love to hear who would you like to meet from any era, any historic period.
So this is an easy one for me. I can't pick the same one as you for obvious reasons, but I spend quite a bit of my time explaining around the world where Wales is and the fact it's a real country. And I always come unstuck. So I have to think of people that are well known and put some kind of context behind it. And more often than not, Tom Jones is the person that seems to be recognized more than anywhere else. So I would like to meet Tom Jones. And if for no other reason than I'm able to explain to people, Wales is a real country. and Tom is from there. So it's that's my pick, and that's the reason for it. So, and for anybody listening out there, Wales definitely part of the UK, but its own country too.
I love it. Tom Jones, obviously. I had no idea he was from Wales. So that's pretty
My
awesome.
work here is done.
Nice. Yeah. So I've already learned something today, Mark. You've already, taught me something new, and that is the first of many things that you'll share with us. Man, we have a lot of great comments here in the chat though. So, Maggie Jane Austen, her favorite author. We have Patrice saying Marie Antoinette. Very good choice, of course. Mindy saying MLK Jr., of course. And we have
I should have gone bolder, Tom. I should have gone bolder.
No, it's great. It's great. It's not unusual to choose Tom Jones, right?
Wow.
There you go. So I'm done for the day. So I'll let you take over. We have Sally saying Helen Keller, which is a great pick. Lisa with Walt Disney. Natalie with George Orwell, aka Eric Arthur Blair. I had no idea that George Orwell was a pen name. That's interesting as well too. Yeah. So Mark, we are definitely living in an era like no other, of course. And you've been doing some amazing work at LavaSource. I was hoping to kick things off. You could tell us a bit about your HR journey. We always like to say on the show, nobody wakes up at the age of 8, 9 years old and says, I really want to get into HR. As a young kid growing up, it's really not your first choice. So there's always an interesting journey that people end up on to end up at HR. So how did you get into HR, and what are you currently up to at LavaSource?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. I think that you make a very good point. It's rare to find somebody that says, I thought when I was growing up that I'd really like to work in HR. More often than not, people say they fell into HR, and often they're very emotionally intelligent people who like to help and like to get things done. They like change, but they're often people who have somehow ended up in part of the business that they may not have thought about previously. And that was my story as well. I started off in a contact center, helping around service management. I got my degree and thought the world would be mine for the taking like everybody else, and realized that that's when the hard work starts. And ended up working for an American company, Electronic Data Systems, based out of Plano in Texas. And spent the next 20 years in a variety of real HR roles, business partner roles, doing some Lean Six Sigma activity as well, HR consulting. And eventually I built and run a number of global HR shared service centers, and was lucky enough to deploy some amazing technology like Workday, SAP, Ceridian, and really help organizations transform the way they delivered services into the client, and spend some time working in some amazing parts of the world as well. So I've been really lucky with my HR journey, but to your point, that wasn't what I thought I was going to do.
Sure. Yep.
And I'm really pleased in how it ended up, but I don't know that we necessarily structure the world of HR to allow talent to come in a way that makes meaningful decisions through their career, like finance, like legal, like other parts of business areas. And perhaps that's an area that would be great to get some more control over, so that people feel like they should go towards it deliberately rather than falling into it.
Yeah, that's that has rarely come up, as a response to that question. So I really like that. Perhaps we could spend a whole nother 30, 35 minutes talking just about that, right?
Yeah,
and really kind of the deliberate discipline of HR, and how we can better build that up and promote that to students and promote that to folks who are just getting started in their careers. You're doing some really interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
I had in my mind this link with Disney that I saw just now, and my family and I go to Disney once a year, so it's kind of one of our places that we love. And the song that came out recently, that of course everybody knows, I won't sing it because we don't talk about Bruno, but that should be "We Don't Talk About HR," because it's kind of the same thing. We talk in HR about everybody else, about we help people, but we're almost the perennial people on a plane that are putting everybody else's masks on to get oxygen, and we think we need to put ours on last. And that's been okay up until COVID, but HR teams all around the world are really struggling, because we've been doing that even more to keep the lights on, and burning those midnight hours. and something really has to change where HR's own wellness and how we look after each other needs to be a completely different kind of approach to what we've taken previously. We've got to be fit and healthy to look after other people, and therefore wellness for HR, it needs to be a thing.
Yeah, it's so true, right? And I think that it might be contributing to a lot of the challenges that we're seeing play out for so many teams. So as we think about this idea, this concept of the golden age of HR, the new era of HR, when you hear other thought leaders in the space and when you read articles that are referring to this, what does it mean to you? How do you define this? And it's a fluffy statement, so I guess for the purposes of really having a solid conversation around this, how do you frame that? Like, how do you think about it?
Yeah, I think first of all, fluffy's good. Fluffy used to be bad.
Sure.
Intangible. Yep. It used to be the emotional intelligence type scenario where it wasn't something hard and tangible and could drop to the bottom line, and therefore it was almost we'd like to do that as well, but that's not the most important thing. I think the last 2 years has taught us that's definitely in the past, and our future is a little bit more balanced between the hard and the soft skills, the task and the team leaders. It's all important moving forward. I think the golden age of HR for me, if I want to frame it in response directly to your question, we have had a lot of thought leaders. I'm not a big lover of the fun any more than you, phrase than you, I suspect. But
same. Yep.
It's the way we kind of describe people. But most of those guys have never worked in HR, as far as I can tell. They're very influential. They know an awful lot about the topic and often do a lot of research. But they're not people who've actually worked in the world of HR and experienced the pressures to be able to take all of that good idea and apply it into the real world. So perhaps there's always been a bit of a gap between how HR operates and the models that are designed for HR. There's a really well-known model, of course, which works well with the centers of expertise and the business partners and the shared services. That's all fine. But when you look at how HR really works, it's a static staffing model where there isn't a bench of HR people. So if a new initiative comes in from the business, HR has been in a constant state of chaos for the last 20, 30
Sure.
years of reacting to the next thing that comes in, reprioritizing the whole stack, and then everybody feels that chaos as a ripple through the organization. So I think the first thing is that there needs to be an awareness that the really well-known models for working within HR weren't really working before, and now they really can't work. So we need to think about some open talent models that are out there, and to complement the work that's happening in HR, which is great. We've really risen the bar over the last 5 to 10 years to deliver a different type of service into the internal clients, but we need to be able to recognize that we can't constantly be in a state of chaos, burning our people until there's very little left to burn, and therefore need to use the open talent models to supplement that resource requirement as and when it's required, so that we can keep things that are on the stack going, deliver the work that needs to be done, but to be able to tap into different pools of talent, to be able to respond in a reactive way to the demand patterns in the same way that an operational leader would do with a bench. HR needs to do that type of thing as well. So I think if we can do some of that, then we can get ourselves fit and healthy to be able to really talk about all of the things that are coming up around wellness, around new operating frameworks, around what the post-COVID world will look like, and be able to benefit from all of those great things that are happening out there, and help the business, but help HR as well.
Yeah, from what I see, it just feels like HR has this opportunity to have a real strong seat at the table, and in a way that they never really had before. When we're navigating these uncharted waters of redesigning what life and work looks like post-COVID, or mid-COVID, depending upon where you're working and where you're existing right now. And like you said, if they're not taking care of themselves and they don't have a bench and they're not in a position to be proactive, to bring their full selves to the table, they will always be left off the table, right? They will not have that seat at the table because they're in this constant state of chaos and disarray. Do you think it's a cycle? Like, do you think that's the burnout is preventing, the teams from getting their footing, right, and being proactive, and from failing to be proactive, they're causing even more burnout? Like, what do you see in your experience, kind of working with some of the teams who are stuck, who are really failing to move in the right direction?
Yeah, I think the two things are inextricably linked. I think that ultimately it's all around leadership. And if you have a really strong HR, CHRO, or CPO, whatever terminology you want, that's already at the top table, then typically that HR team knows where it's going, the business is in good shape, and the strength of that C-suite is typically in a good place as well. And often when we've been doing roundtables or having richer dialogue with our clients over the past few weeks and months, the constant theme that's been coming through is that where there's been a strong, healthy C-suite that's got a strong CHRO, they've come through this last 2 years in not good health necessarily, but in reasonable health, and are able to springboard on from here. Where that leadership hasn't been strong and there's been some confusion, or there hasn't been the strength of HR leader there to guide and support that leadership team through the last couple of years, some of those companies are struggling a little bit more because they haven't really recognized that they need to change what's wrong with their operating models, and how some of the competitors are changing, accessing talent that is going to allow them to react and deliver products and services, and other competitors are gaining a sustainable advantage on them just simply because of some things which historically were run-of-the-mill traditional operating frameworks that have evolved, and the company leadership teams haven't always moved in the past 2 years, almost like we're waiting for things to settle down. It'll all go back to normal. We'll all get back in the office. It'll all be good. Nothing to see here. That's not where we're going. That's not where we were going 5 years before that. And a lot of that comes down to the strength of leadership of the CHRO or CPO, and this concept as well of the top table and getting HR there. That for me as well historically has been around the strength of the person and not of the model. Sometimes it works in an organization, sometimes it doesn't, and it shouldn't be that way. It should work in every organization. If it's the right model, it shouldn't rely upon the strength of the HR leader that happens to be there at that given point in time.
Yeah, some good comments in the chat here. Natalie chimes in saying HR needs to be C-suite. So HR is definitely, Natalie is definitely agreeing with you. There has to be that strong leader at the top. Robert chimes in here saying the problem is that it's all talk about change instead of truly taking action, right? And I think we can all agree there as well. You can talk a big game, but when it comes down to it, you have to take action. And in a lot of cases, Mark, I believe with what you're saying, which is it's not without lack of intent or desire to take action, right? Sometimes it is strictly lack of resources, right? And it's because they haven't adopted that agile model that lets them, create the bench and keep the bench full and bring the right players onto the scene, onto the field when they need to. And we have this awesome opportunity with Mark today to think about, all those teams that are listening. If you're on that hamster wheel, you're stuck on the hamster wheel and you're just running and running and running. Mark is going to break down a couple different tactics and strategies and ideas, that will help us get off the hamster wheel, right? And help us kind of break the wheel, build the bench, and move things in the right direction. So Mark, we talked on a call, last week, just to kind of get our thoughts together for the episode. And we were talking about, kind of the gig marketplace, the gig economy, the opportunity economy, whatever you want to call it. It has so many different names, but the idea of creating this kind of agile workforce, is that a good place for us to start, just to think about how we can kick things off?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, HR in a number of companies all around the world are currently helping their business leaders to think about different open talent models. And all sorts of wonderful work is happening out there to create a virtual bench in kind of old money. But I don't hear any HR organization thinking about how they themselves could benefit from this. So it's a bit like, I'm drowning and I need help, but that person's drowning as well. Oh, look, they're getting help. I don't need any help. I can help them some more. There's almost a lunacy to the way that we're going about this, that what we're doing for others, we could do for ourselves. And there are open talent marketplaces, not just like Lava Source. I mean, I developed this with some of my colleagues because I was experiencing the same kind of challenges when I was working in HR. When I was running programs, I could never find the right resource. It was constantly a reprioritization, and I could access people through traditional resourcing channels, through marketplaces, but I couldn't find everybody in one place, and I couldn't find one community of people outside of LinkedIn. That it's too big in so many respects. It's wonderful, but it's a massive thing. To be able to tap into resources that I could use as a virtual bench. And that's kind of what's created the need in my mind for vertical marketplaces that were community centric, that people went there because they recognized that the brand could be of help for them. There were people like them that were being represented there, and that it was all about trying to make sure that it was easy to find, for want of an easier analogy, a needle in a haystack. So we created a needle stack, just so it's easy to find. But I don't know if that answers the question.
It does, and I think for anybody who's listening, who's joining us today, where the concept of an open talent model or this type of marketplace is new to you. Mark, maybe you can give us just one or two quick examples of gaps within the HR function or opportunities within the HR function today where tapping into an open talent model would really help fill. Like, are there specific areas that you find are more popular or more emergent today in this space?
Yeah, there's a couple several that spring to mind very quickly. So some examples of where it can help for organizations that have a lot of factory-based staff where you have to have a HR person on site, or if you don't, you need to get somebody there pretty quickly. If something comes up, you're either sending somebody on a plane or you're putting them in from an external source and paying a lot of money, or you're reprioritizing where they're working somewhere else. If there's some work that needs to be done and a HR business partner needs to go in and conduct an activity because the manager can't do that, just to be able to reach out to an open talent space and say, I need somebody to go from one state to the next, and I don't want to make that travel commitment, but I can see that there's somebody already in that location. I'm going to tap in my requirements. I'm going to say I need a HR business partner in Florida, in Orlando next week. Is there anybody there? And there's some guys on the platform that see this and say, okay, I'm already there. I work for Disney. I'm going to use some examples that are easier to kind of follow and that I enjoy as well. And you can hire these people by the hour. So you could pay maybe $200 to have something that has the quality and the kind of approach that you need to keep your brand in integrity in place, but you haven't had to spend thousands of pounds, thousands of dollars, I should say, sending somebody or having to stop doing something really important somewhere else in the business where you'd made a commitment to that business leader that what was important to them last week remains important in your mind. So HR business partners are a really great example of just a real need that has to be on site. Some other ones, an awful lot of work happening in the organization design space right now with hybrid org design models. So there's some guys who are doing some really good work on this. But if you have an internal view only from a company perspective, you're typically tapping into the likes of Gartner or elsewhere, and you're getting a kind of a filtered view of what's out there, but you're not able to access the people who are working in those organizations. But there are people who are working independently, supporting lots of big brands, that you could access, again, for a fraction of the time and cost
Sure.
that it would take to employ somebody, but you're still getting the richness of information. So it's all about, for me, being able to access talent that adds value to the organization at a strategic level where it really matters, as well as the transactional day-to-day things that also are important to HR. You can, and you need to do both. Otherwise, you're only fixing part of the problem.
Yeah, and it sounds like this model, this solution, really allows you the opportunity to balance both, and do it quickly, right? And with flexibility. You're not hiring a full-time person to come on with, a full salary and benefits and kind of a career trajectory, at your organization, which is the old model, an existing model that we think about. So if everything sounds good on paper, right? Everything sounds good in theory. What are some of the things that you've seen that are keeping HR organizations, HR teams from really diving into this, even dipping their toes into this? Is it fear of compliance, or they don't understand how payment works? Like, is it? I'm just kind of curious. What is the resistance, to something like this that you see?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of that. It's the ostrich syndrome in some respects, where we're busy, we're just carrying on as we are, but there's a lot of denial around, well, we can't do this because benefits are a really important thing here, and we have to be completely focused on compliance. We've got to make sure that we're not dropping the ball, and we need to go through all of the same steps we went through previously, and hire people in exactly the same way. But there are I don't know the numbers of millions of open recs that are currently out there for HR staffing, but if you go on and you search anywhere, everybody's looking for the same HR people, and there are only so many of them in the world.
Sure.
And we can only keep on making the same people work longer and harder until they completely drop. So that's going to hit a crunch point at some point this year, and that will make us change. But for sure, any kind of change of this significance makes everybody feel a little bit uncomfortable. And if I'm honest, if I was in those shoes and I hadn't kind of been through it as well, if you're going through something for the first time, it's always uncomfortable. It doesn't matter if you work in change all day. We're human beings, and change just takes some time to get used to. I think sometimes you're just looking for markers of people that have been through this before as well. And a number of conversations I'm having right now are, although it's a tech-enabled platform and it's all self-service, you could do it for yourself if you like, we're having to talk people through exactly how it works, reassure them that all of the issues that are there around compliance, around tax, around keeping the organization compliant, as well as allowing them to access that open talent, they all have answers now, because we've been, along with a number of other large organizations, doing this type of thing for several years. And some of the talent marketplaces, like Topcoder, for instance, I don't know how many years Topcoder was going for. It's more than 10 or 15 years. Some of these models have been around a very long time and are proven, and they work. So it's not like some of this is fresh and people need to worry. There are solutions, but an awful lot of time is spent reassuring people that it's okay. And walking them through it. I think that through the course of this year, HR will start to tap into some of the resource that they're currently prioritizing their business leaders to use, so that the operational teams can access open talent more efficiently. And then they look at how they can help themselves, back to that oxygen airplane analogy. There's no reason why, whilst we're doing this for business leaders, we can't be doing it for ourselves as well. And in fact, we've got much more chance of helping them if we can help ourselves along the way at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it could be your superpower, that you unlock, right? If you're able to tap into this. If you're just joining us on Talent Experience Live, we have Mark Brooks Lewis with us. He is the founder of Lava Source HR. We are talking about the golden age, or the new dawn of HR, how critical it is for HR to transform into being more proactive versus reactive, to really solidifying their seat at the table as we're redesigning how we think about work, how we do work, and really how they can help support all these other functions within the business. And one of the ways that Mark is sharing that we can really enter into the promised land, right? That we can really, move into the right direction, is by tapping into this, open talent model. So we've been talking about this for a bit. If you're just joining us, definitely check out the replay so you can catch up. But if you have any questions for Mark, feel free to start asking those in the chat. We'd love to answer any questions in the comments. Any questions at all. As we said earlier, Mark is many decades of experience. He's gone beyond the thought leadership aspect. He's been a practitioner. He's done the things. How many thought leaders have gone through ATS implementations, and kind of worn those battle scars? Mark has done it. So happy to ask Mark any questions, and we'd love to answer some of those on the air. Mark, one of the areas that I wanted to talk with you about, before we really wrap up today, is when you do this, because so many HR functions as well, they get really locked into their immediate geographic area, right? And part of the problem with finding the right talent to handle certain situations is they're only looking for talent in a very small little pool, right? And I think, one of the opportunities for the open talent model is all of a sudden your pool becomes an ocean, and what are your thoughts, in terms of how that helps organizations, particularly HR functions, build a really more diverse, ecosystem for their own areas?
Yeah, I think the answer for this both helps HR and the business. And I think this ties to DEI initiatives where traditionally people would source in very standard ways. So they'd have their recruiters that they always use. They have the same talent pools they tap into. They may be local, they may be slightly wider, but the reality is everybody's always fishing in the same pools, always claiming that DEI is the most important thing for them on their agenda. If you saw some of the Gartner stats last year during COVID, DEI seemed to come down the list a little bit, despite the fact that everybody was claiming it was at the top of their list.
Sure. Yep.
And I think that a lot of this is because we continue to source in the same way, and therefore we're getting the same types of people. And that is because the simple fact that recruiters are busy. It's a really tough job to be a recruiter. Anyone who's been in that kind of world knows that you're constantly running multiple job searches at the same time. You've got hiring managers constantly trying to get the on with their day job whilst they're also trying to source. And candidate management is it's a really big thing around employee engagement. And I know the one of the reasons that Venom has been so successful is it's taking a lot of that pressure away and allowing teams to function more efficiently. And that's where I kind of came into to understand about Venom and what you do. I hadn't realized just how fantastic the product was. And I know we're not here to big up. Say, but it really is very much the best product out there right now, even more so. And my colleagues in different HCM providers won't like this. It probably adds more value to organizations than many of the really well-known HCM solutions themselves. But ultimately, if you're looking for a real way to make a difference and access diverse talent, then you're going to have to look at different pools that are less difficult for recruiters to sell, because they're always looking, understandably, for low-hanging fruit. So if you want an initiative that brings in more people who are single parents that can't come to the office every day because they have to drop their children off at school and pick them up, or they've got old elderly parents that they're looking after, recruiters find it hard to sell those people in, either externally into companies or harder, or even internally to hiring managers, because it forces the business leaders to have to operate differently and think about outcomes rather than how long or how available a certain person is to do a job. And those traditional sourcing channels have continued to deliver the same types of people into organizations, which is the exact opposite of what the DEI initiatives were trying to achieve. So I think if we fix the open talent model, if we allow capability to come in from elsewhere, whether it be different countries, different parts of that country, and allow the concept that remote and on-site is both good, hybrid is good, then we allow fresh thinking to come into an organization, and that not only helps on a DEI basis, but it brings in new ideas, it brings in some different perspectives, and perhaps my last thought on this, and I get culture and why it's important, why everybody wants to talk about what their culture is. But every time I hear somebody saying our culture is wonderful, the message I'm getting outside is if I want to go and work there, I need to fit in with that culture. And therefore, anything new that I might bring, I'm thinking, well, should I bring that? Or do I need to spend my time fitting in to make it feel like I'm going to be accepted there? So, some of the company culture messages around employee branding, this is what we do, we're wonderful, come and work here and be like us. Again, it's almost the exact opposite of what the DEI statement that a company comes up with generates. So I think really some of this it sounds simple, but it's common sense to me. Think about what you're doing and what you're getting, but think about the message that's giving to people that you'd like to bring into an organization. And if you're talking about fit and culture and all the things that really matter to you, what you're really saying is you need to do these things to come and work here. And therefore, that new fresh talent and thinking and the new places that you might go and find it, the two things are disparate and they need to be joined. And in most companies right now, sadly, they're not.
I couldn't agree more with that perspective. I think it's a really fresh perspective. We're always looking to have people check all the boxes, right? And it's really, why check all the boxes when you have your own boxes that you can add, and I think it is a unique perspective. And I think even those who organizations whose culture claims, that this is what we believe and what we practice, putting it into practice is still a challenge for many. So I love this idea of how the open talent model can free us to embrace this a little bit more too. And one of the misconceptions I think people have with flex work or part-time work or bringing in talent who won't be a full-time employee is that you're going to be pigeonholed to interns or folks who are fresh out of school. And I think a lot of people have misconceptions about what hourly workers, right, or what flexible workers can bring to the table. But Mark, what you're describing is there are seasoned professionals out there with many years of experience who have incredible levels of expertise, who have incredible backgrounds and incredible perspectives that they can bring to your organization, bring to the table. And given their situations in life or their desire, of what they want to commit to, they're just limiting themselves to different pockets throughout different time frames, or geographically they live in a different time zone, and that shouldn't be enough to keep organizations from pursuing that level of talent. I think many probably just don't realize that that's available, right? Have you noticed that too?
Well, yeah. So one of the things I was lucky enough to do is to set up a global shared service center in the Philippines a number of years ago. And what I hadn't appreciated, this is when an awful lot of the traditional voice work of shared services had moved from India to the Philippines, and many tens of thousands of roles went there. And when I went out to Manila, I had no awareness that most of the people working there were servicing North American companies, and much of the Fortune 500 capability was coming out of there. And so I thought, well, if that's already happening and people are interacting with folk from all around the world, why can't that be accessed on a fractional basis rather than on a permanent basis? There's no difference to the people that are coming in. It's just a different model. And if you trust somebody who's sitting in a global shared service center to deliver a quality of work that can be assured because they work for Pepsi or whoever it might be, if that person's sitting on a marketplace working for Pepsi and they'd like to do another 10 hours of work instead of the 10 hours they used to commute just to earn some money, that's the same person. They're doing the same work, just getting it at a fraction of the price you might be paying somebody else. But a lot of this is around change for me. It's around making sure that we're looking at outcomes, looking at how we might both help the business leaders and help ourselves to think differently, getting our head out of the sand, or getting off the hamster wheel for 5 seconds so that we can take a look, take a breath. Because it's hard, right? When you're on the hamster wheel and you're working 18 hours a day to make sure that you're getting through your stack, it's so easy to be told you need to get off there, but it is very, very hard when you're on it to actually get yourself off. And so for me, if we can create the opportunity for people in HR to get that help quickly, and to find the people who they would trust because they trust them every other day, to take some of that work away, then we take a breath, we look up, and it's much easier to see what's coming and help others then, because we're fitter.
Yeah, no, I love it. And, we're starting to come up on time, so we'll start to wrap things up. But Mark, I'm in HR. I'm on the hamster wheel. I'm feeling the pain. I'm feeling the burnouts. I come to you, Mark, and I say, what is the one thing? What is the first action I should take, right, to start to get one foot off of the hamster wheel so I can start moving this direction? What would your response be? Like, what is the best kind of first action that someone could take if they find themselves in this position and they relate to this?
Yeah, I think there's a religious response to this. We kind of have to practice what you preach.
Sure.
We're constantly looking to help others, and we absolutely are not looking at what we should do for ourselves. So we don't talk about HR, Bruno. We've got to recognize this is not going away. It's getting worse. And we need to have within HR leadership teams really heartfelt conversations about whether we should be doing something different moving forward, or whether we just stick with a static resourcing model, which looks great on paper, but it has caused us to act in a state of constant chaos for the last 20, 30 years. And the business are looking at what we do and thinking, well, I can see why they've got an identity crisis, because they're constantly reshaping, rebranding what we do, and ultimately we don't get off that hamster wheel. So the first thing we should do is, instead of just helping the business leaders with these new open talent models, we need to do this for ourselves as well, to give us a chance to get off the hamster wheel.
Yeah, and it's great to hear you reference Encanto. As a parent of 3 children myself, I've listened to that soundtrack quite a few times, and it actually reminds me of the other song, where the sister takes everything and has to carry the weight on their shoulders, right? And breaking under pressure, right? So, maybe Lin-Manuel Miranda, when he was writing the lyrics to the Encanto songs, he was spending some time with HR and his HR counterparts. I love it, Mark. This has been an amazing, conversation. Really appreciate the insights. I want to just open it up. One last question. If there are any final thoughts on the topic or any parting words of advice that you want to share. I know you covered so much, but just wanted to turn it over to you to see if there's a final parting shot.
I think so. Thank you, first of all, for letting me come on and talk about something that matters to me. It matters to an awful lot of people I've worked with over the last kind of 15, 20 years, where I've seen them fall off the edge of a cliff because they've been putting other people first. Employee wellness includes HR. We are all employees. So no new parting shots, just a reminder of the most important one, the single solitary message that the world will not fall apart if HR starts looking after ourselves. It will get better, because we'll be stronger, because some of that weight will be lifted from us. So we just have to stop this kind of navel gazing, and just look up, and realize that the world can be different, will be different, but only if we change. We can't change through changing others.
Yeah, I absolutely love it, Mark. Such an amazing positive message that you shared with us today. Where can people best learn about you and best learn about LavaSource if they want to learn more about LavaSource HR? And how can they get in touch with you if they want to continue this conversation with you directly?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So if you Google LavaSource HR, you'll pick us up. Our contact details are on our website, and we'd be really happy to talk about some of this stuff. And ultimately, we're trying to create a community of thought that evolves the community of HR. So don't worry about paying for those conversations. This is all about making sure that we help those that really need guidance and support. And it can't just be about money. It needs to be about a community that helps each other. And so if you need guidance, need help, just want to chat, then please reach out, and we'd be happy to help you wherever you are.
Awesome. Mark, we will definitely have you back on a future episode. You know, your opinion, your voice has been amazing. So thank you for joining us. We'll have you back maybe for Disney/Tom Jones karaoke one day. Maybe we'll do that. You know, when the world gets back to normal, hopefully we have the chance to kind of engage, meet in person, and we can jump on the microphone for some quick Disney or Tom Jones tracks. That'd be a lot of fun.
Would be great. Thanks, Tom. Thanks.
Awesome. Take care, Mark. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Awesome. This has been an awesome episode. You know, Patry put it out to the world. I love the subtle Disney theme of this episode. Hey, when you tune into Talent Experience Live on Thursdays at 12 p.m. Eastern, you never know what you're going to get. You never know what direction these conversations might go. This is not your grandmom and grandpop's stuffy old webinar. Okay, this is a lively conversation for all the recruiters, talent sourcers, talent managers, and HR professionals out there. And we love doing it. We love bringing it every single week, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much for hopping on. Thank you so much for your time, your attention, joining us, commenting. You know, we had Charlotte, Mateus, Sarah, Lisa, Julie, Laura, Maggie, Patry, Jen. The list goes on and on. We had Mindy join, Sally. Lots of lively comments. Minu joined. So Minu actually joined a little later, 17 minutes in, but she chimed in with Jane Austen. So she caught up 17 minutes in. She caught up and she shared who she would like to meet. And that'd be awesome. I'm an English major, so I'd love to meet Jane Austen as well. So Minu, thank you. I think I mentioned Natalie, John joining at the end. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you joining. And we're here every single week, folks. So 12 p.m. Eastern, join us. We'd love to have you next week. We have a great topic coming up, and hopefully we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.